You know, I've made over 800 videos on this channel now. Man, I should really get out more. Never once have I ever told anyone they need to like, subscribe, or share or any of that kind of bollocks, because honestly it gets on my bloody nerves. Especially if you say it in the first 15 seconds, you haven't even given me a damn reason to subscribe, you twat. If your work is good enough, I don't need to be battered for it. I'll do it on my own accord. Again, twats. I say that because if you find anyone that's confused over why gamers and to a broader extent media consumers in general are often verging on blood-bursting vessels these days, perhaps this video will suffice. Because I was reading that now infamous Verge article written by insert irrelevant obnoxious XX blah, 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 who the hell cares, and my word, it is just loaded to the brim with what you can call regime sugar bumps. Words that would normally jolt the reader like a shock collar are now tuned to dull me. Racism, sexism, misogyny, marginalized. Just, it's the sound of my brain when I read these words. Allow me to elaborate on this phenomenon using the words emanating from these miserable activist types and a bit of common sense. These types that you see defending every miserable piss-poor anti-fan hiring, their outcries, their moans, complaints, it has nothing to do with race, sex, representation, or any other nonsensical gimmick they peddle. It is purely about power and forcing their politics into every aspect of society in a cringy totalitarian way. Every label they throw at you when you tell them to fuck off is just a socially malign phrase designed to alienate you. No more, no less. It has bugger all to do with their own personal feelings on, well, just about anything. It is purely a power move. Their strategy is incredibly basic. It is not at all sophisticated. All they do is take anything that isn't European, and pervert it into a piece of state-sponsored propaganda. Under the guise of representation and authenticity, they will take anything non-European and make it into a bland piece of crafted cardboard to be never anything more than a cliched trope made to fit a checklist. They are, quite literally, designed by committee. The consultancy label may as well be an old-world phrase at this bloody point, which frankly makes the very concept of acting, well, rather redundant, because you're essentially saying you're X and therefore you must behave like X, always, or else this is ruining the narrative somehow. Well, that and ESG scores. Basically, the politicization of melanin and multiple demographics in order to boost an artificial market investor signal. That's DEI from a practical perspective, basically. Which brings me to the next point. Something I would highly advise people to do. Divorce yourself from the politics and philosophy of the current day and escape the cult of Overton. Again, study power. Look at the entity that you're dealing with here. These pawns defend SBI. SBI is sponsored by the Canadian state, which makes these so-called journalists essentially bureaucrats. And if you know anything about state entities, they do not operate on the profit model of the market. So you would be a fool to think you're somehow going to tackle this beast armed with the free market. Not going to happen. The problem is far deeper and far more rotten. If you ever wonder why the activists always seem to win and get ahead, can you figure out now why? Trust I don't need to draw you a picture over here. Recognize their words in the media. They serve two primary purposes, framing and labeling. That's it. Remember, the regime doesn't have nearly as much power as you think it does. Its most powerful organ is the capacity to shape public opinion. But it has little sway over much else. Its power is in the theatrics of perception. The bureaucracy never cares about being honest, factual, or accurate. Their goal is to accrue state power by any means necessary. Their writings are to be looked at as theater performances of power politics designed to court the reader and/or flex power at them. And that's all, no more, no less. Never think these people care about being two-faced or hypocritical and will respond to it like people with morality and ethics. They're not useful traits to have. It's a hindrance, which is why they come off like, well, sociopaths. Because they are. It is far more interesting to dig at the psychology of the people who ascribe to this kind of nonsense. In essence, they are the inadequate losers of society. Mediocre midwits who crave the approval and attention that life would never grant them because they are utterly unremarkable people. Simple as, really. And you can look at them. They're unappealing. They aren't in shape. They aren't blessed with intelligence, wit, or any creative prowess of any kind. There's nothing about them that beams with any semblance of individual brilliance at all. They aren't Brahman, hence why I call them scripts. It's why they all look the same as well, because any deviation away from the lowest common denominator or attempts at self-improvement would be seen as an offense and out of line with the regime, misery loves company and all that. And you can see this in their intervening distortions. They can't create anything, only pervert, which is driven purely out of envy. Anything that reminds them of their own failures and inadequacy must either be burned or subverted. True beauty is a gift from the gods, and these cretins have rejected any divinity for worldly perceptions of power, which are conditional and infinitely more corruptible. And the regime will select these kinds of people because they are incredibly weak-willed and easily manipulated. They just follow power. They have no qualms about anything other than feeling like they should matter, for whatever reason. If you put them in Soviet Russia, they would be communists. If you put them in the Third Reich, they would be Nazis, for they are naught but lemmings. The relationship with this ideology is very much like Gollum in The One Ring. They would be absolutely nothing without him, and yet they chase it even as it scars everything else around them, purely self-serving. Again, keep in mind, these people are incredibly weak. They act only this way because they are conduits of power. They have virtually no will of their own. And you can see this when they get caught or busted and have to backtrack. They will say anything out in the open when they think they can get away with it. They know full well it's wrong, but they're powered by arrogance. Because the moment they get caught, defending it seems so disjointed to the point of comical, because again, they are conduits, and their apologies are very much like their crappy products, designed by committee. Realize their entire lives revolve around this regime-fueled perspective, and if you were to unplug it, where their social currency no longer has any value, merit, or frankly even make any sense, I'm not sure what will happen to their minds. I suspect a few of them would need some severe psychological rehabilitation because they might be cognitively impaired. And that's not a joke, by the way, I'm being dead serious. Leftism already turns you mentally ill. Drugged by it and unable to get a fix? I honestly don't know what that would look like. Must be harrowing. But anyway, let's end the short round with something controversial yet right on the money. Dear imbecilic leftists, let me explain to you how you made fascism funny. Two very simple concepts at play here. Overabundance reduces value, and repetition is the mother of learning. Memes are, much like stereotypes, they're based off an element of truth. And you idiots have cried fascism at literally everything that opposes you politically. You have become the embodiment of the meme, everything I don't like is Uncle Adolf. Not only that, you're really irritating. Now, if you've been on the internet for more than, say, 50 nanoseconds outside of a damn Reddit forum, you will know showing the internet what annoys you as you annoy everyone else, they are going to annoy you because you're irritating. And guess what they're going to use? Your overuse of that bloody word has removed all the sting. It's no longer an ideology of the 20th century. No. It is now simply tool used to make a lefty spurg. That's it. Much like anyone with a phobia, if you bring them closer to what they fear, knowing it might result in this amusing reaction, so will those who you annoy bring a swastika closer to you going, "Ooh," just to watch you freak out. You know what will be the ultimate defanging of that word due to its overuse? It becoming an armband of a symbol used to ward off lefties in much the same way garlic and silver is used to ward off vampires. And once they're done making you lot spurg or yell or wet yourselves or whatever the hell it is you people do these days, they don't zich Heil ze Führer. They throw it away going, fascism is cringe and gay, but man, that shit sure is funny. They aren't fascists, you twats.
Hail to the king, baby.
Amen to that one though. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.